So I've just finished the playthrough, I can't even remember what number this is, of the Dragon Age series, and it's worked out well because the tiny little Dreadwolf Rises teaser trailer we got at the end of the year hit right in the middle of my Inquisition playthrough. And this made me think about how important elven lore really is to the Dragon Age series, and I thought, why not start 2019 with some good old Dragon Age lore? Hi, this is Rima from Odyssey Gaming, and today I'll be looking at the Evanuris, the supposed elven god, which had such a huge effect on the series and will most likely to continue to have an effect on the series in the future. Now, there will be spoilers, of course, especially for Dragon Age Inquisition, but the games have been out for a fair number of years now, so I'm not too worried. And with that, let's get into it. The best place to start, I think, is to look at the ancient elven empire, and the context that provides us for who or what the Evanuris were. ELVHENAN, or the place of our people in Elven, is a term used to describe the ancient elven empire which was thought to spread throughout Thedas, encompassing parts of Orlais and Ferelden, and focusing on the city of Arlathan, which has now become more of a legendary myth to the elven descendants, especially to the Dalish. It was thought that the ancient elven empire had beautiful cities that were seamlessly integrated with nature, with lush forests and beautiful blue glass spires as far as the eye could see. However, as most of the tales focus on Arlathan, little is known of much of the other cities. The city of Arlathan was thought to have been located in northern Thedas, where the Arlathan forest currently sits. Other than being technologically advanced, it was also claimed that the ancient elves were immortal and immensely attuned with magic and the Fade, especially being familiar with spirits. The ancient elves were also thought to predate any other race in Thedas, or at least they didn't encounter any race for a very, very long time. They were thought to have encountered the ancient dwarves around 3,000 years after the formation of Arlathan. The two races were thought to be fairly separate, with the dwarves mainly staying underground and the elves staying above ground, but the histories of both races do depict an era where humans didn't seem to even be in the picture. Soon the elves did encounter the human race, with both their histories indicating a contentious relationship. Elven history indicates that not only was there conflict, but disease seemingly spread through the empire once encountering the humans. It was also around this time that some elves started to age, leading the elves to believe that somehow humanity had cost them their immortality, which led them to isolate themselves. However, with the rise of the ancient Tevinter Imperium, contact seemed unavoidable. According to Dalish lore, Tevinter conquered Arlathan with the assistance of demons, and rather than fight, the elves chose to flee. This effectively saw the end of the ancient elven empire, leading to the loss of their immortality and what subsequently led to the enslavement of the elven people. Present-day elves, especially Dalish, attribute this downfall not only to humanity, but also fen'harel, who they blame for tricking both the Evanuris and the Forgotten Ones and leading to their banishment, leaving the elven people susceptible to their fall from grace. However, this history is not completely accurate, as we learn in the Trespasser DLC. The ELVHENAN were advanced and immortal, but this is because of the state of their world at this point. This ancient world wasn't divided by the Veil. Therefore, the Fade and the waking world were all in one, allowing the ancient elves magical abilities beyond anything in the present. Eventually, a group of powerful and well-respected elven mages became elevated over the rest of society and formed the Evanuris in order to lead the elven empire. So who were these Evanuris? Well, let's look at them individually and briefly. The Evanuris, or the elven pantheon of gods, were made up of 9 individuals, and they were Elghnan, the god of vengeance. He was seen as a figure of fatherhood and was thought to lead the pantheon with Mithal. And Mithal was the great protector. She was the goddess of love and protection and acted as a symbol of motherhood and justice. Then there was Faladin, the friend of the dead, or the guide. He was the god of death and fortune and was thought to be a guide who would take souls to the beyond, which is the elven afterlife that mirrors heaven almost. Then there was Dirthaman, the keeper of secrets. Not only was he a god of secrets, but he also was a god of knowledge and was commonly associated with deceit and the raven. Dirthaman was also the twin brother of Faladin, and both were thought to be the firstborn children to Mithal and Elghnan. Then there was Andruel, the goddess of the hunt, and that's pretty self-explanatory. Then there was Solas, the hearthkeeper. She was the goddess of all domestic arts and the sister to Andruel. It's also claimed that Solas was the one who taught the elves how to use herbs and magic to create medicine, and how to create rope and thread. Then there was June, the god of craft, and he supposedly taught the elves how to make bows, knives, and other tools for the hunt. And last but nowhere near least is fen'harel the Dread Wolf. The trickster god of the pantheon, elven lore states that fen'harel tricked both the Evanuris and the evil Forgotten Ones, banishing them both to the beyond and the abyss respectively. This supposedly brought upon the failure and the fall of the Elven Empire. Though thought to be gods or creators, these 9 individuals were respected and very powerful elven mages, and for a time they ruled fairly. However, with time they started to become corrupt. They used magical orbs to harness further magical power and allowed them to start enslaving their people, and even start to brand their slaves as valislin or bloodwriting. In the modern day, you can see these intricate tattoos or markings on Dalish elves who commonly use them to honour their history and their gods. However, it was a sign of being enslaved during the time of the Evanuris. Eventually, the Evanuris started to build temples in their name, with elven nobles worshipping specific members of the pantheon and owning their own slaves. This led many of the elven slaves to be abused, with countless being tortured and branded, and this was endless considering some of the slaves were immortal. The pantheon themselves tended to vie for power, with infighting and battles to gain ground. This led to further destruction and the abuse of their people. Tales include that of Andriel hunting countless mortals and animals, Faladin and ELVHENAN settling their disputes by having slaves fight to the death, and Solas would even have her slaves kill each other over the smallest issue. It seemed there were only 2 members of the pantheon that didn't seem to follow this path. Mithal treated her followers with kindness and tried to protect them, even challenging the other Evanuris, and Solas, who openly stood against the Evanuris and claimed that they were not the gods they claimed to be. In turn, this led the others, aside from Mithal, to deem him the Dread Wolf or fen'harel, and tried to turn the elven people against him. Fen'harel aimed to free his people, creating refuges where slaves could hide and have their valislin marks removed. Those who were freed then in turn fought in fen'harel's name to free their kin. Eventually, this rebellion and infighting all led to Mithal's murder at the hands of the other Evanuris, which was the final straw for Solas. With the death of his closest friend, Solas aimed to bring down the Evanuris, which led him to make a decision he would eventually choose to regret. Unfortunately, this led to an issue. As the Evanuris were immortal, Solas could not think of a way to kill them, therefore decided to banish them. He proceeded to create the Veil in his stronghold, which was eventually called Skyhold. This act was termed, quote, holding back the sky, which effectively pulled apart the Fade in the waking world, stripping all elven people of their immortality and their connection to the magic they were once so freely able to control. This crippled the Elven Empire, destroying much of their infrastructure that relied on magic, and killing countless. However, it did banish the remaining Evanuris. Solas himself was severely weakened by this act, and fell into a slumber only to awaken prior to the events of Dragon Age Inquisition. Without their connection to magic and their immortality gone, the Elven society was dramatically reduced in numbers. Eventually, they did encounter humans centuries later, and at this point, though it was thought that ELVHENAN stood, it was a shadow of what it was during the time of the Evanuris. Some scholars believe that humans migrated to Thedas from somewhere else in the world, but regardless, for a time these two races co-inhabited until the formation of the Tevinter Imperium, whose expansion eventually led them to ELVHENAN. This is where Dalish history and actual history seem to match up. The elves didn't stand a chance against the power of blood magic and the force that Tevinter brought, which subsequently led to ELVHENAN's fall and the enslavement of the elven people. In current day Thedas, the elven people are a shadow of their former selves. Most elves live in human societies, either in Tevinter as slaves, or lay as servants, or in alienages in Ferelden and the Free Marches, or part of the Qun. And there are the Dalish elves who live as nomads outside of society, who aim to live closer to nature, honouring their ancestor and their gods. However, what Solas' past shows us is the Dalish have passed down traditions and beliefs that are based on centuries of mistruths, misconceptions and inaccuracies that have placed the majority of the elven pantheon in high regard, and Solas, the Dread Wolf, in a position of being blamed for the downfall of his kin. The elves definitely have the most intriguing history of all the races in Thedas. They seem like they predate most of the other races, other than maybe the Titans, who likely predate them. In current day Thedas, it seems that the Tevinter Imperium are hugely blamed for the downfall of the elven people, and in particular for their loss of immortality and connection to the Fade. However, what Solas' past teaches us is that the ancient elves were oddly similar to Tevinter, with a small group of powerful mages ruling over the people that led to mass abuse and corruption. Eventually, the Elven Empire destroyed themselves, leaving themselves susceptible to the future threat humanity posed later down the line. But what do you guys think about the Evanuris and the ancient elves? I am dead fascinated by the entire history of Thedas, as in particular the Evanuris, so I would love to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and please share this video to help the channel grow, and be sure to hit that bell icon to stay up to date with all our new videos. I hope you enjoyed this video, and Ma Saranas, my friends. I will see you next time.